stories. Everybody wants a Sasquatch story. I haven't had a time, and a very poor connection out here to dig up some of the emails from people that have sent me their experiences with these damn beings out in the middle of nowhere. And I just couldn't pull any up while I'm out here, so I wanted to tell some from the boat, because I'm basically right in the setting. You can take a look at these mountains just in the view of me right here. If you're familiar with Tofino, Ucluelet, Porto Bernie, Bamfield, Barkley Sound, these are the remote mountains that surround this area, and you can see they're untouched, unexplored, and if there's any keyboard warrior on the planet who actually thinks they can tell us and dictate to us what lives in these mountains just right here, you're a little challenged. There isn't a human being alive today that can dictate to us what isn't existing on the face of this planet, especially in these mountains right here. I mean, look at this, for God's sakes. Think about it. My God. Could you imagine somebody, anybody, anywhere on the planet trying to dictate to myself or you, anybody, what's living in just these remote mountains right here? Just these ones right here. This teeny tiny little speck on the planet. There isn't one human being that can do it today. But there is a lot of human beings that can tell you what does exist, because they've seen things that exist in these mountains and other mountains, and you can't take that away from them. You just can't. They're good, hardworking, honest people, and tens of thousands have seen these damn things. That's just all there is to it, and that is evidence. And if your brain tells you that 10,000 plus people are making that up or lying, then your brain is very, very limited and very, very challenged. It's just the way it is. So a lot of people, I know I've got a handful of stories left that I haven't shared yet. And a handful of people keep asking me about the experience I had when I decided I wasn't going to look for these things intentionally anymore, and I was done. And I just haven't got around to it. But I'll tell you that this one now. I have to move the boat because the wind's blowing me here. Hold on a sec. So I had quit guiding for big game up north for a season or two, and decided to have a normal job like everybody else. Sort of. I was contracting actually in Whistler, British Columbia, and living in Pemberton, British Columbia. I decided that now that I had the time, that I was going to go out and see if I could actually find these things intentionally and get them on video or whatever. And because when you're a professional hunting guide, there's hundreds of us, there's thousands of us on the planet, and there's some very skilled people out there that can find things in remote places. You know what to look for: the wind, the terrain, the food, the feed, the layout, when to go somewhere, when not to go somewhere. It all adds up, and you create good skills for finding things. I thought, okay, I'm going to take my skills and focus them 100% on finding these beings. And off I went. And that's when I started asking around the community where I was, and digging up all these dozens and dozens of people who had seen these damn things, just in my community alone, and started mapping out the most popular places, the time of year where I figured they might be traveling through, or feeding, or eating, or whatever you want to call it. And then I started laying out the most likely place I may have an encounter one of these things or find one. And I basically bullseyed it in one certain area. And what I was trying to do was I was trying to wait until early spring, which in springtime, if you look at something as though it's like a wild animal or something, it needs to sustain itself off the wildlife. Which, right, I'm 100% convinced these things aren't wild animals. They're not wild animals. Sorry, I get speech. They think these are beings. That's all I can say about them at this time. But anyway, there was a crossing. There's two valleys that intersected way up the head of the valley that I live in, and they're timbered. There was one of the only places where the valleys came up and cut through mountain passes, but it stayed timbered the whole way through these two little tiny corridors. And why I was looking for that is because during the wintertime where I live, recreation snowmobilers come from all over the planet to snowmobile up in these mountaintops. where I live. And if you can think and you leave footprints, you are not going to go running over top of those ice caps. You're just not going to do it. You're going to stick to where the cover is. And that's why I wanted to try to figure out where the most likely place was these beings may travel through to get over top of a mountain pass and into the next valley. So anyway, I started looking, and I wasn't having much luck until everything started to green up a little bit. And the cover was out, the bears were out, the grizzlies were out, the black bears were out, and the bears were rutting. And so now I'm bringing a gun with me when I go. And there's an old meadow, a couple hidden meadows along the river bottom at this particular intersection. And I was starting to slowly slip in there. And I had a video camera and a tripod and my rifle. And I would slip in there and dump the rifle in the grass and hide it and see if, who knows, maybe I could just videotape something or see something or whatever happens. And I had a kid that works for me with me this one particular time, and we kind of quietly, I started leaving my vehicle like a couple miles back down the road, and I wouldn't even walk up the road. I'd bail off and I'd walk along the riverbank and stay in cover to approach this big intersection where these big meadows were. This one particular time, we're sneaking in, we just got to the edge of the meadow, and it sounded like it was only like, maybe 100 yards away. This 3-toned call came out in the thick timber, like right there. There's no wind, and there's absolutely no way. As a wolf, believe me, I have a lot of experience with wolves. And another thing about wolves is they always have a 2-tone call and nothing more. And 2-tone call meaning, a wolf will go. That's a 2-tone call, and that's typical wolf call. And this thing made a higher pitched, long drawn out 3-toned call on the higher side of the pitch. And I can mimic any game animal you come up with. I can mimic it, but I can't mimic this damn call. First off, I don't have the lung capacity. I could never ever be able to belt out and mimic the duration of the call with the 3 tones and link them together in one breath. It's just not even frickin' possible. And the kid who was working for me at the time, he also was wrangling with us up north in our guide camp. And he right away looked at him and says, "Did you hear that?" I'm like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "I think that's you're busted." I thought of it. Yeah, who knows? Who knows if they're yelling at you busted? Who knows if they're saying, "Yeah, we're here"? Who knows? I don't know. But all I know is we heard this damn 3-tone, long, drawn-out call that I've never heard ever before and ever since, actually. And I wasn't scared. I didn't feel scared. I didn't feel uneasy. Well, yeah, I've definitely felt a little uneasy. But doing what I typically do when I'm hunting, if I'm after a particular animal, especially blacktail deer, I like to hunt those in a thick bush. If I'm after a particular huge old monster, wary buck, and I get busted by him, I'll leave. And then I'll come back in another day or a couple days later. But that's what I do when I'm busted by the game animals that I'm after. I just leave. Because I don't want them to think that I'm coming after them and I want to blow them out of the area. So I'm thinking, all right, I just got busted. Obviously, whatever that is knows we're here. Let's leave. And we'll sneak in here from a different direction a few days later. So that's what we did. And then I snuck in by myself. I think a few days later when I had time, I parked my truck way back and started my hike in there. And I got a rifle with me. I got a 300 Magnum with me. And but there's grizzly tracks all over the place, and it's rutting season for bears. Because I'm not planning on shooting one of these things. Because I'm a firm believer, especially now. I'm 100% firm believer. If you actually whacked one of these things intentionally, if it wasn't self-defense, and you're in the middle of the bush away from your vehicle, you're probably not going to make it back to the truck. I'm 100% firm in believing that one. I wouldn't risk it. I mean, obviously, if I had one of these damn things staring me down broad daylight, the crosshairs would be on his forehead for certain, unless he got across to me 100% certainly I was going to be safe. And I think if anything, something like that decided to get aggressive with me, the trigger would be getting pulled in a tenth of a second. Obviously. I mean, it wouldn't. You got to save your ass, right? But anyway, moving along, this one particular time, I snuck down into that meadow, and it was like, I waited till, I was trying to time it so I could be hanging out there until dark from the last 45 minutes seeing light or so. It's fairly warm out now. The spring was starting to really kick in. Everything's really greened up. And I had the camera on my video camera on a tripod. Had my 300 Magnum hidden in the grass, out of sight, and I'm just standing there against, a bit of cover. I know you can't hide from these things. Don't even try. You just go out there, and then I'm standing there, and all of a sudden I heard a noise in the thick stuff straight ahead of me in the cottonwoods, and something was swinging I don't know. It's hard to call it. It's not a branch. You can't, there isn't a branch big enough to duplicate that sound and call it a branch at the same time. You don't want to call it a log. I never saw what was being used to slug the side of that cottonwood tree, but it sure as hell wasn't a branch. It was something a lot more bigger and substantial than a branch, as in real big. And when trying to describe it to friends later on, the only way you could duplicate the sound that was coming out of that thick shit right there was if you strapped on a big chunk of wood onto the boom of a backhoe and slammed it into the side of this tree as fast as you could, 4 or 5 times, a few times. And you could hear it swishing through and smashing the shit out of the underbrush before it impacted the bark on that cottonwood. And it was real loud. And the power was stupid. And it was so intimidating. It was absolutely mind-boggling how intimidating it was. And I got this camera with the tripod right there, and all I'm thinking, you just got this weird adrenaline, gross butterfly times 5,000 with electricity feeling flooding through your guts, from head to toe, through your guts or your insides, and you're just like, you're just absolutely shitting yourself. I've had a lot of experiences, especially if you look back at some of my YouTube hunt stories. I've had a lot of experiences with some crazy hunting experiences with grizzly bears and stuff, and I never had a feeling of terror like this ever before in my life, and ever since. And I didn't even think for 1 second to go for that camera and hit record. Didn't think for 1 second I even had a camera with me. I'm standing frozen. I'm thinking I got to get the hell out of here. That's all I'm thinking. This overwhelming, massive surge of I have got to get the hell out of here. From every square millimeter of my body was telling me to get the hell out of here now. And it was such a bizarre experience. It was just such a weird, crazy thing to hear and experience. It's just very weird, especially when you spend the majority of your life in remote places all around North America, up north, Alaska and Kodiak Island, northern British Columbia, the Yukon, and you think you've seen and heard it all, but that particular incident for me was pretty frickin'. It was just it was incredible, and I just grabbed my tripod, my gun, and went the opposite direction, and booked it out of there, went straight to my truck, and that was it for me. I'm like, okay, I'm good. I don't need to do this anymore. That didn't feel good at all, and I don't know. I look back at it, and I look at that experience as whatever did that was basically telling me to F-O and go F myself and to piss off. And he couldn't have got it across to be more clear than that. So that was probably my 6th or 7th time approaching that specific area with 100% intentions of finding these things. And that's what I come up with. So, it's not that exciting. I didn't get chased by 1 or 2 or 3 stood up and looked at me or something like that. Or, a lot of these other crazy experiences people sharing have those have stories somewhat like that. But it was enough for me to just have confirmation once again, even though I've seen these things twice, and I'll share my other sighting with you later. But I'm about 10 feet off these rocks in front of me right now, in case you're wondering why I'm looking everywhere. And that was it. So that was it for me. That's it. I'm good. I'm done. Okay, you're here. I'm here. And then once again, like I've told everybody for the past handful of years now, and I'm good. It's like I know they're out there. They know I'm here. Well, let's just leave each other alone and not ruin it for each other, because this is obviously my life, is being out in remote places in the middle of nowhere, and I really don't want that ruined. And I've met a lot of people who have had it ruined, and I don't envy them, and it would really suck. I mean, what am I going to do? What am I going to do if I can't go in the outdoors, really? I'd become one bitter person pretty quick. So, there you go. It's simple. It's not that exciting. Of a story, I don't think, compared to other stories that you could hear from other people, being chased and shit and rocks and sticks thrown at them and stuff. But I wonder if possibly the fact that I had that 300 Magnum with me, maybe that made my encounter with these things a little more mild that particular evening, possibly. Would it have been a little more intense if I hadn't had a weapon? Who knows? Or would they even have done that if I came without a weapon? Who knows? Maybe they're saying, yeah, take that rifle and ram it up your ass. Listen to this power. I don't know. Who knows? The possibilities are endless. And I haven't a clue. So that is why. That is when I stopped pursuing these things, like physically pursuing them intentionally. It's always, I'll always talk to somebody about these things, or if I hear somebody saw one, I'll talk to them about. That's about as far as it goes with me. Just last fall, along the Peace River, I found some sign, and I got the pictures here. I'll show them to you here. And like I said earlier, footprints, tree structures, tree breaks. I don't care. I haven't. Who cares? Like, seriously, who cares? I don't care about the tree breaks. I don't care about the tree structures. I don't care about footprints. I don't care. It's just like if somebody tells me they saw a massive grizzly footprint now. Yeah, well, they leave footprints. It's a proven fact. Now I'm way beyond that now in my curiosity about these things, and slipping into the forest to intentionally get your eyes on one of these things isn't going to bring the answers. They're just not. I haven't a freaking clue what the hell's going on. I don't know what these things are. I haven't a clue. But yeah. But do seeing that I found prints. I found a pretty good footprint 2 years ago where I'm currently hunting deer, which kind of bugs me because I got to hike in there in the dark and shit, and I just don't need that crap. But I found a print there. Yeah, a year ago in July, I found a print in there, and I found prints 3 times now. I guess 3 different times I found prints. I found the different signs of these things in the forest numerous times, and it doesn't really interest me. It's like, it is what it is. When you know they're there, you expect to see that shit, just like you do a moose rub or a grizzly print in the sand. It's just what it is. But coming up with the answers is a lot. It's very time consuming to come up with the answers. You have to have a lot of self-motivation to dig and speak with very intelligent people and come up with these answers. It's not an easy thing to do. And, I don't really have the time and energy to do it. When I do have spare time, I look into this topic and I start digging, and I look into very intelligent people and what they've come up with, other people who do have the time and they're making their time to investigate this topic and see what's up. But anyway, so there you go. That was the pivotal moment for me. I don't know, 6 years ago maybe, 5. But that was the pivotal moment. But that was the pivotal moment for me where I mean, just the intimidation that came across that evening was stupid. It was ridiculous. Because that's not easy to I'm not easily intimidated out in nature. And it was really overwhelming to feel the terror and the power of that message. And it's just kind of creepy. It is what it is. There's nothing I can do about it, There's going to be a lot of morons out there who are probably going, yeah, you were on drugs, man. You're an idiot. You're a bullshitter. You're a liar. And really? Why? Because I had an experience that I'm sharing with the planet. I'm not ashamed to. Really? It's what it is, man. If I seen something or heard something, I'm not going to keep my mouth shut about it. Why? Because I'm scared of idiots? I'm going to share that shit. It's just, and that's what everybody else should do, and that is what thousands of other people are doing. But it's quite the topic, really. It's just quite the topic. It's these beings aren't, it's the being, I don't find the beings a mystery. The footprints aren't a mystery. The videotapes of them, the mystery is why we aren't informed about these things. That is the mystery. That's my number one mystery. Why are we not fully informed of these beings, the story behind them? I haven't a clue. That's a major mystery. I gotta get away.